So, very good evening, friends. Myself, Tejas, President of CAMFA. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, Tejas, you're audible.
Yes, you are.
All right. So, it's a pleasure to have you all this evening, and we will try to make this event more meaningful and interactive. As all of you are aware, this event is organized by CAMFA under the KLA program, which endeavors to bring in value add to its members and fraternity as a whole. Topic for today is all about estate planning. We felt that this is the need of the hour. All of us are facing these challenges, facing these challenging times, and life has become so unpredictable and uncertain. One needs to be prepared for the worst. One needs to be, just give me a minute. Yeah, one needs to be prepared for the worst, uh, uh, you know, uh, so to make things easy for the family members. Hence, estate planning plays a very important role in everyone's life. Due to COVID-19, we have lost lives of many known and unknown people among our friends, family, and business circles. Words can't express how saddened we are to hear the loss. Please know that our thoughts and prayers are with you during this tragic times. Vanita, if you could just play those slides, the fourth slide. So these are some of the members whom all of us are aware of. They are from the industry, they have been associated with us, and they have been a part of our business. And it's a huge loss for all of us. And it was really sad to know that, they could not fight the situation and come back with us. So, but any which ways, that's what the God has created. So, and these are again some of our fraternity friends who have been, from Bangalore and other places as well. Couple of people we are not able to mention here. We could not get their photos, but still, a tribute goes to them as well. So, with our deepest sympathy, before we proceed further, let's stand and observe a minute of silence for all the victims of coronavirus pandemic, including those from our fraternity. We could just stand for a minute. I thank you all. So let's set the context for the evening. Friends, if asked, what's your date of birth? We answer spontaneously. But when asked, what's your date of death? We get blank. Yes, that is what life is all about. It's a journey and it's a cycle. We need to be prepared and well planned for making a life easy for our dependents. So, what is estate planning? Estate planning is a preparation of tasks that serve to manage an individual's asset base in the event of their incapacitation or death. So, I'm not going to speak much about estate planning because we have an eminent speaker today. We have invited one, Mr. Suresh. He's one of the prominent and person well known in this industry, and he's one of the promoters and executive director of Prop Seva. So they have been experts in this field and comes on a broad experience with over 30 years, and out of which he has spent 20 years in the financial services sector. He is very passionate about reaching the public and creating awareness on the significance of estate planning to protect the family members' future financial security. He has conducted seminars in various corporates, financial institutions, social clubs, educational institutions, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, and some of the professional bodies like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and Council of Financial Planners. He's got hands-on experience to various personal finance facets such as investments, insurance, tax planning, real estate, and succession planning. He's 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 helped more than 200 families from India and abroad over the last 4 years, and his exposure to various complex situations with different families has enriched his skills in offering suitable advice in the inheritance of one's wealth. So I welcome you, sir. So a professional qualification of Mr. Suresh, he's a certified financial planner standards board, and he's a chartered trust and estate planner as well from AAFM. And also he holds a certification in trust and estate advisory. So he's a very experienced person. So it's all over to you, sir, and all the best. Yeah.
Thank you, Tejas. Thank you, Kampa team, for having trust in me and inviting me to share my experiences. I especially thank Tejas for your nice introduction. Made my evening very encouraging and to interact with the people, my fellow advisors in the industry, whom I really regard and have a lot of respect to all the advisors in the industry. My interaction in the last over 20 years I had with many of the advisors. I always will be happy to contribute for the growth of the advisors. Welcome you all. You are listening to Suresh. Good evening, and I promise you that you'll have some takeaways, if not many, during the next 60 minutes or so discussion. Tejas, I thank you once again for setting the stage and informing the audience about basics of estate planning or what is estate planning. Okay, now you all are aware about what is estate planning. You are in the financial industry. You would have come across these terminologies many times. But yet, most of the people have not given any priority to have this estate planning in place. Unfortunately, if you look into the history or even around the people around you, your families, friends, colleagues, relatives, for generations, many families in India have gone through the complexities and disputes in the inheritance of property. These incidences have not only what you call strain the relationship among the family members, but assets that are created are not put to use for the benefit of the family members. So, what could have been done by these people who left these assets without any proper direction? The simple answer could be estate planning. So, if these people have executed a proper estate plan, all these disputes could have been avoided. If not avoided, at least disputes could have been minimized. Or at least the transfer of estate could have been very simple and smooth. Since we are all into the financial industry, morning I had conducted one more webinar for a team of other advisors. So in the discussion, one of the advisors shared the information which I am sharing to you. It's a public information. I just took the liberty to share with you all. It seems there is a 28,000 crore is a value of unclaimed shares that are transferred to the Investor Education Protection Fund. 28,000 crore. Approximately 20,000 crore is a value of unclaimed mutual fund units lying with the AMCs. There are 5,400 crore of unclaimed corporate dividends. 15,000 crore is a value of matured insurance policies but not claimed. 25,860 crores is unclaimed amount in bank accounts. And 11,770 crores is unclaimed amount in UTI schemes. This is as on 31st March 2020. So if you sum up, it's almost 1 lakh crore is unclaimed and lying with these financial institutions. Imagine now the importance and significance of estate planning. And all these are all financial assets. And we are the financial advisors. What little role we can do or we can play in ensuring that these funds reaches to the family members? Number one, you are helping the family members. Number two, you are helping in your business. So what is the importance and significance of estate plan? So we all work hard, sacrifice so many things in our life to create wealth. And this wealth is provided for the well-being and benefit of the family members. We hold this wealth in different asset class. We are aware about this terminologies, asset allocation. It could be property, it could be investments in financial assets like equities, bonds, debentures, mutual funds. It could even bank deposits, FDs. It could be movable assets like gold, jewelry, silver articles, automobile, and personal assets, household assets like furniture and fixtures, and electronic gadgets, which is becoming very expensive today. So all this estate is held by a person and provides the benefits of these assets for his family members apart from using for himself. We are aware about goal-based investing, or even if it's a common investment part, we create a segments for different goals, right? So all these investments can be utilized or applied to achieve the goals if the person who made these investments is alive. Today, we are aware that life is uncertain. I did not tell you the risk of death and disability, which is there to us. Okay. When such event happens, how are we prepared to ensure that the investments or wealth that is set aside for specific goals are utilized only for that particular purpose? For example, I have investments in mutual funds. When I've started these investments, my objective is to have a retirement fund. And as a retirement fund, it is not only for myself, it is also for my wife. To meet my post-retirement expenses, I'm accumulating, and there is substantial amount, let us say, there is investments of 30 lakhs in this bucket. And today I'm no more, and I have not done any estate planning. Does this 30 lakhs will reach to my spouse only to meet her retirement expenses? How does it reach to her? This is a big question mark. So whatever we do or advise the clients in creating the wealth, if proper provisions are made to transfer the wealth in the event of his death, all our work is going to of no use. So that is where estate planning plays a very important role. So a person during his lifetime owns all these assets, and he has a right to manage these assets. And we are aware that the two most important risks we all face, which is inherent to us, is risk of disability and death. When it strikes, it will have a very adverse impact in the life of the people. We need to empathize with them. Like, I'm very sorry to say that Mr. Ashraf Kundapur, such a young age, other guy from HDF, such a young age, devastated. When I came to know about Ashraf Kundapur, really devastated. I know him very personally. I'm not sure what kind of planning he has done. He never expected, the family could have never expected that this kind of event strikes them at the age of 38, 39. He's just. So, disability and death is the biggest risk we all face. When such event happens, what are the provisions or plan we have for the management of our estate and for the appropriate distribution of our estate? This is where most of us fail to do that. This problem is not only in the present generation or in the present time, it is there for ages, or even you can say yugas. If you go to Sanskrit words, even Ramayana is about intestate, Mahabharata is also about intestate property disputes. So even in the times of Ramayana and Mahabharata, people are considered to be very good, trustworthy and all, dependable. Even in such cases, these disputes have arisen, and imagine what will happen in Kali Yuga. So to overcome all these complexities, it is very important for us to have an estate plan. One is for the inheritance of the property after the death of the person, and one is management of property if a person becomes incapacitated during his life. Both are important. Both are part of estate planning. You may say, what is this incapacitation during one's life? It could be physical disability due to accidents or some other reasons. It could be health disability due to health or mental disability. Especially today, we come across senior citizens, 60 or 70 and above, They are suffering from dementia, tremors. They don't have control over their nervous system. They're not even able to sign the application forms. Most of you would have experienced this. So I take my own example. My mother, she's 75 plus. She has a bank account. She gets pension. Bank has given a debit card. She doesn't know how to use debit card. She don't want even to try to use this debit card. She thinks that when we go to ATM to draw the money along with her, she thinks that her money, entire money is in that ATM box and somebody will take away in the night. And signatures mismatch when she signs the check. So we have serious issues in encashing. And when you use the ATM, it's only limited amount we can use. So these are the certain issues that arises during the old age. That's what I mean, incapacitation. And then on the death, it is inheritance. Right. So first let us go with the inheritance, which arises on the death of the person. So when a person dies, he leaves behind all his assets. Now, what will happen to these assets? Okay, who will have a right to inherit these assets? Who will decide about the inheritance of these assets? Many people say, sir, my family members will get the rights. But how do they get the rights? Who are the family members? So this is where people need to be aware the pros and cons of inheritance planning. So the right to inheritance, a person can decide by himself. How he can decide? By executing a proper plan for the distribution of his assets after his death. So a person himself can decide who owns the assets. If he fails to have a proper plan, then the distribution of his estate will take place as per the rules specified in the succession laws. There is no other alternative.
Suresh sir, sorry to just interrupt. Kindly try whether you could increase the volume.
Now it's better?
Slightly okay, but that's the comments that I have received. So kindly just check it, sir.
Yeah, volume is high, very high. Check now, still it is very feeble.
Could you use your earphone?
Yeah, I'm using earphone.
Okay, fine, sir.
I'm using earphone.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
So a person who owns the asset, he has every right to plan the distribution of his assets after his death. If a person fails to have a plan for the distribution of his assets, then law will take its course. So when a person has a plan for the distribution of his estate after his life, we call testament or estate planning, both are same. So when a person doesn't have any plan, we call intestate. So here, the default option is intestate. If you don't have a plan, the distribution will happen as per the law because it is state of intestate. That's the default option. This box is already checked. If you don't want the law to interfere in the distribution of your estate, then a person must have estate plan or a testamentary document. Now, since the default option is intestate, let us see what the intestate law says. Okay. So there are three succession laws which deals with the intestate in the event of intestate. So one is Hindu Succession Act 1956, then we have Indian Succession Act 1925 and Muslim Personal Law. So each of these laws have made different provisions for the inheritance of the estate. Hindu Succession Act 1956 applies to the estate of the Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh and Jain. Whereas Indian Succession Act applies for the inheritance of the estate of the Christian, Jews and Parsis. Apart from these three religions, Indian Succession Act 1925 also applies to a Hindu who married to a person of another religion, and such marriage is registered under the Special Marriages Act. And then Muslim Personal Law to the Muslims. So each of these laws have made different regulations for the inheritance of the estate. So let us say Hindu Succession Act again has made provisions which is different for male and female. That means the assets owned by Hindu male, the succession rules are different. For the assets owned by Hindu female, the succession rules are different. So to understand this, first we'll go with these succession rules for Hindu male. The legal heirs of Hindu male, we can put into three categories: class 1, class 2 and residual. When they say legal heirs, who have a right of inheritance as per the Hindu Succession Act. Class 1, class 2 and residual. The first right of inheritance will go to legal heirs in class 1. In the absence of any legal heir in class 1 group, then the rights of succession will pass on to class 2 legal heirs. In the absence of any class 1 or class 2 legal heirs, it goes to residual, other relatives who are not in class 1 and class 2. And if there is no one to make a claim, then all his estate will go to the government. That is what we did. Just I shared with you, around 1 lakh crore is lying. Nobody is making a claim. Okay, the first right of inheritance goes to class 1 legal heirs. The common question when I say to the people to have an estate plan, sir, why should I need to have an estate plan? My asset will go to my family, my legal heirs. This is all very subjective. Family, legal heirs. Who are the legal heirs? Any idea who are the class 1 legal heirs of Hindu male? Can we go for a poll, Vanita, just to understand how many are aware about this?
Sure. So the poll question is, who are all the class 1 legal heirs of a Hindu male? So we have a multiple choice for this one. Let me launch the poll, sir. Yeah, here you go.
Can you all give your options? Who are all the class 1 legal heirs of Hindu male?
Kindly
have a right to inherit?
Sir, kindly just don't text it in the chat box. Get into the poll, sir.
Okay.
Can I end the poll, sir?
Yeah, end the poll. We'll show the result. 71 have voted out of 110. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think results are visible to everyone. 83% of the participants said spouse is one of the legal heir, class 1 legal heir. And then 48%, only 48% say mother, 42% father, 73% say children, son and daughters. So 15% brothers and 10% sisters. Fine. So we have now the options. All the relatives, one or other person have selected as a class 1 legal heir. This is where exactly the issue arises. Now let us understand who are all the class 1 legal heirs. Let us look into it.
Sir, is there a possibility to just explain in Kannada also? A little bit in Kannada also?
Okay. I am not sure how good my Kannada is. I will try. You and me can speak the same level of Kannada. Okay. Now ಇವಾಗ ಹಿಂದೂ ಸಕ್ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ಹಿಂದೂ ಸಕ್ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹಿಂದೂ ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗ ಹೋಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಓಕೆ, ಅವ್ರ ವಾರಸುದಾರನ್ನ ನಾವು 3 ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 2 ಅಂಡ್ ರೆಸಿಡ್ಯುಯಲ್ ವಾರಸುದಾರರು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ವಾರಸುದಾರರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 2 ವಾರಸುದಾರರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 2 ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದವ್ರು ಯಾರಿದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಕ್ಲೈಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಲೀಗಲ್ ಹೇರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾರು ವಾರಸುದಾರರಾಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ ಪೂಲ್ ಕೇಳಿದೀನಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾದರ್, ಮದರ್, ತಂದೆ, ತಾಯಿ, ಹೆಂಡತಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳು, ಅಣ್ಣ ತಮ್ಮಂದ್ರು, ಅಕ್ಕ ತಂಗಿರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಕೇಳಿದೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೀವು ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫೈನ್. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಲೀಗಲ್ ಹೇರ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ ದ ಹಿಂದೂ ಸಕ್ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ತಾಯಿ, ವೈಫ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೆಂಡತಿ, ಅಂಡ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್, ಮಕ್ಕಳು. These are the 4 categories of people who are the class 1 legal heirs and who have a right of inheritance. And all these 4 categories of people have a right simultaneously. That means they have an equal right. You cannot exclude anyone. They have an equal right. Okay? So, and it becomes a separate property upon the inheritance. Now, let us say I brought a property for the safe and comfortable living for myself and my wife is my first priority. Of course, my children, till they become independent, they will be with me. But once they start earning, I'm not bothered whether they are with me or they buy a property or whatever it is. But me and my wife, we would like to have a secured place for living. And I failed to have an estate plan. And in my absence today, I leave behind my mother, my wife, and children. So this property, what I own, does not go only to my wife. Even my mother and my children also have a share. Now you have understood the consequences of not having an estate plan. I have kept aside some investments. I want to use it to meet the expenses of my parents who are financially dependent on me. And if I leave this world without any estate planning or succession planning, okay, along with my mother, even my wife and children also have a right to make a claim on these investments. And you see the screen now. My father is not my class 1 legal heir. Nam tande na class 1 legal heir alla. ನಾನು ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಲೀಗಲ್ ಯಾರನ್ನ ಇದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆ ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ನಂಗೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ನಾನ್ ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆಗೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಫ್ ಐ ಲೀವ್ ಬಿಹೈಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 1 ಲೀಗಲ್ ಹೇರ್ಸ್. ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆ ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲಿ. ಅವ್ರ ವಯಸ್ಸಾಗಿದೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಖರ್ಚೆಲ್ಲ ನಾನೇ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನನ್ನ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅವರು? ನನ್ನ ತಂದೆ ಅವರು ನನ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಜೀವನನೇ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ತಂದೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿ? ಇವತ್ತು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವಿಚ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ಯಂಗರ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್. 40, 45, 50 ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಇವಾಗ ಅವರು? ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಕುಡ್ ಬಿ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಕುಡ್ ಬಿ ವೈಫ್, ಇಟ್ ಕುಡ್ ಬಿ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್. So in the absence of a estate plan, the distribution of assets will not go to the intended person. And it becomes more complex when you have a real estate, immovable property. Now this property what I own, I want this for the benefit of my wife during our old age, and I fail to have an estate plan. On my demise, along with my wife, my mother and children also have a right. Tomorrow my mother or children may demand for the partition of the property. And it's only one property which cannot be partitioned into 4 pieces. Then there is no other option to sell the property and convert this into money and distribute it. And with that limited money, my wife cannot find an alternative place to live in. Right? So these are the complexities that arises in the absence of estate. And all these things we have seen in my practice. I have seen in my practice. Fine. Hope it's clear now. Class 1 legal heirs. If any of the legal heir, class 1 legal heir, son or daughter has predeceased it, the share of such predeceased son or daughter will go to their legal descendants. Will go to their descendants if they have. Okay. So my father has died today. I am no longer quite long before I have died. So the share what I would have got had I been alive, my share will go to my wife and children. Okay. Similarly, the share of the daughter will go to her legal descendants. So what is about the distribution of assets among the class 1 legal heirs? If the Hindu male leaves behind assets without any class 1 legal heirs, then the rights of inheritance will pass on to class 2 legal heirs. So there are many relatives who are classified into this category, but all will not have a simultaneously the right on this property like class 1 legal heirs. The rights will pass on in the order of succession among the class 2 legal heirs. So the first in the order who have a right of inheritance among the class 2 legal heirs is father. If there are no class 1 legal heirs, then only father will step in and claim the rights on this property. In the absence of father, then it goes to brothers and sisters and so on. So this is what is about the succession rules in the case of Hindu male. Then let us see now Hindu female. If any Hindu woman dies without any estate planning and she holds assets, it could be movable property, financial assets, whatever it is, then who will have a right to succeed the property left behind by Hindu female? So the relatives of Hindu female are arranged in the order of succession. The first in the order to succeed to the property of Hindu female is husband and children. The first right goes to husband and children if she is married and having children. In the absence of husband and children, then it goes to the legal heirs of the husband. Legal heirs of the husband. Husband means male. Legal heirs of male, class 1 is father. Then it goes to class 1 is mother, class 1 is mother. Then it goes to father among the class 2. In the absence of father, goes to the brothers of the husband, brothers and sisters of the husband. Right. So the first right is to the husband and children. The second right is upon the legal heirs of the husband. If there are no relatives from the husband side, legal heirs of the husband, then third in the order is parents of the Hindu female, father and mother. In the absence of father and mother, it goes to legal heirs of the father, otherwise legal heirs of the mother. It goes in the same order. Today, there are many parents who are dependent upon the daughters to meet their living expenses. Daughters are supporting the parents. They are married. They have their own family, but still they are supporting the parents financially. And such woman doesn't have any estate plan. And if any unfortunate event happens, so parents who are financially dependent on them don't have any right to make a claim on her property in the presence of husband and children, or parents-in-law, or brothers-in-law, because they are in priority to claim the rights of inheritance. So estate planning is not only for men, it is also for women. So many people come to me, sir, ಮನೆಯವ್ರನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಲ್ವಾ? It's not about men or women, it's about who owns the assets. The purpose of estate planning is to transfer the title rights and benefits of the asset to the legal heirs. So whoever owns the asset, they need a estate plan. So these are what provisions about succession to the property owned by Hindu male and Hindu female. These provisions are applicable when a person dies intestate. So for more information, you can go through the section 8 to the section 16 of the Hindu Succession Act. So whatever I have discussed it now, all these provisions are made in this section from section 8 to section 16 of Hindu Succession Act. So then I'll come to the Indian Succession Act, which is applicable to the property or assets left behind by the Indian Christian and also a Hindu who married to the person of another religion under the Special Marriages Act. So here there are no different category of legal heirs. There is no difference between the assets left behind by Christian male or female. The rules of inheritance is common. Either such person is a male or female under the Indian Succession Act. Let us say different scenarios here. It depends upon the different scenarios. Let us assume that Indian Christian is not married, single, is not married, and he dies intestate. The rights of inheritance will pass on to the father. See the difference here. In case of Hindu, the first right pass on to the mother. In case of Christian, under Indian Succession Act, the right of succession will pass on to the father. In the absence of father, then the rights of inheritance will pass on to the mother, brother, and sister, one share each. It's not just mother. Along with mother, even brothers and sisters have a share. In the absence of parents, Indian Christian, single, not married, parents are not alive, then all his property will go to the brothers and sisters. Now let us another scenario. Indian Christian is married, spouse is alive, no children. Normally we think that entire property will go to the spouse. But you see the distribution here. Only 50% of his property, spouse has eligibility to claim. Under 50%, the rights will pass on to the kindred, who are relatives. That is father, then mother, then brothers and sisters. Even though person is married, the spouse has the right only to the extent of 50%. Married, spouse and children are alive. Even in such case, only 1/3 to the spouse and 2/3 of property will pass on to the children. 1/3 to the spouse, 2/3 to the children. An Indian Christian leaves behind a wife and a son. Wife receives 1/3 of his property and 2/3 goes to the son. So, married, spouse is alive, no children, no relatives, then entire property will go to the spouse. So like this, we have to see the scenario, the status of the family members, and different rules are made under Indian Succession Act, which leads to complexities. I hope I made it clear both about Hindu Succession Act as well as Indian Succession Act. So these are the references, you can look into it. The sections that are applicable for the intestate inheritance, section 31 to section 49 of Indian Succession Act. And for Parsis, section 58 to 56. Fine, when a person dies intestate, how the family members can make a claim on his assets? How the asset can get transferred to the family members? We being financial advisors, we are aware about nomination. So on financial assets, we can make a nomination, and nominee can make a claim in the event of death of the account holder or unit holder, shareholder, whatever you call. But yet, in many cases, nomination is not made. Even though the nomination is made, most of you are aware that nomination does not give absolute rights or beneficial rights to the nominee. He holds the money as a custodian on behalf of legal heirs. So many of the clients, when we interact with them, sir, ನಾನು ನಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ವಿಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ? ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಇದು ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ವೈಫ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಮಿನಿ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೈಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ. All legal heirs have a right, class 1 legal heirs. So nomination madilla andre, depending upon the value of the assets, then banks, AMCs, depositories can ask for the succession certificate. The succession certificate is issued by the district court. The certificate is issued to make a claim of the financial assets only. The court will identify the successors of the deceased person, and these persons, as per the law, have a right to give valid discharge to the AMCs and banks and other institutions. And when the institutions settle the funds or amount or account on the basis of the succession certificate, they are discharged from their liabilities. They are discharged from their obligations. But again, succession certificate will give authority to give a valid discharge. Succession certificate will not give the title and rights and benefits. Again, the successors named in the succession certificate will hold as a custodian on behalf of legal heirs. Suppose a person has left behind immovable property and he has not made any testament. There is no estate planning. then how the family members can make a claim on this property. So property is a state subject. Administration of property is governed by the revenue department. Every state have their own procedures and rules to claim the title over the property. In Karnataka or more say in Bangalore, when a person dies intestate and he holds the property, in such case to claim the title over the property, the family should obtain a family tree, which is issued by the revenue department, office of the Tahsildar, giving the list of the legal heirs. It only gives a list of the legal heirs, that's all. And this family tree will become a basis to claim the ownership on this property. And a person has left behind 4 legal heirs, so all these 4 legal heirs have a right now on this property as per the family tree. So tomorrow, if the members want to do any transaction on this property, could be to sell this property, to rent out the property, or to give the property on lease, or even to take a loan on this property, the consent and signature of all these class 1 legal heirs is required. Today I am dealing with a family where 2 generations ahead a person has acquired the property. He died without any estate planning. Nobody bothered about this property much. Today there is 3rd generation. There is a need to have a consented signature of 54 family members. And these members are spread across continents. 54 family members. And the property is worth around 2.5 crores. And for last 1.5 to 2 years, this issue is continuing. Of course, 1 year has gone due to COVID. Now 2.5 crores is just like in a dustbin, like that's all. It's left to everyone to acquire this property. Gone 2.5 crores value, nobody's able to enjoy this. This is what is the issue that arises in the absence of a estate plan. Or otherwise, we need to get a letter of administration from the court. So letter of administration is given in case of 2 events. Number 1, person has not made any will. There are multiple properties, financial assets, immovable properties, and so other properties that dispute among the family members. Then they can go to the court to get the letter of administration. Or a person has made a will, he has not appointed an executor, or executor is appointed, but before the death of the testator, executor also has died. So then again, letters of administration is required. So these are the complexities that arises, right? So when a person dies intestate, there are disputes in the distribution of property, complexities to claim the title over the property, uncertainty. The family members don't know their share, how much they get, when they get, expenses in claiming the rights and inheritance. The distribution of assets are out of control, and confusion. People don't know what is the next step to do, how to entangle all this mess. So to overcome all these drawbacks, we need to have estate planning. You're aware of what is estate planning? Okay. It is a systematic approach to deal with the management of property during one's life and also transfer of legacy to the next generation. The purpose of estate planning is to have a smooth transfer of assets to the legal heirs, avoid disputes among the legal heirs, deter complexities like going to the court, getting succession certificate, letter of administration, and so on, provide assets to the right beneficiary, whereas in case of intestate, it goes as per the law, and reduce burden on family. This is the purpose. Now finally, we'll come to this point, who needs estate planning? These are a few points which in my practice I am very much convinced that these persons should have an estate plan. Owner of a immovable property. When a person owns immovable property, irrespective of value, he must have an estate plan. Because the title or the immovable property is considered to be good and marketable only when the title is conveyed through a registered deed. So by making a will and registering it, okay, we can convey the title over this immovable property. Single parent with minor children. If even the single parent is not around, who will take control over the management of property of minor child or children? Who have a right to take control of the welfare of the manager of these minor children? Financially dependent spouse or parents or any other siblings. In the absence of estate planning, okay, since the rights will pass on to all, class 1 legal has, the share of the spouse or parents may not be sufficient to meet their living needs. So by making an estate plan, we can provide adequate resources to them. Person suffering from any illness, critical illness. Maybe now I can take example of pandemic. So day before yesterday, I got a call from a person. Sir, I am diagnosed positive, both me and my wife. My wife is already in the hospital. I am worried. Please help me to have an estate plan immediately, right now. In fact, he postponed his admission to the hospital for a day because he wants to sign the will, execute the will, and then get admitted in the hospital. When the spouse is not capable of managing the estate, she is not financially savvy, she doesn't understand the investment language, okay, then we need to have a proper protection. Couple with no children, then to whom their property should go. So these are the few cases where a person needs estate planning. There could be many other cases. This is what few I have listed here. So what are the tools we use in estate planning? One is will, which helps to transfer the property either absolutely or conditionally. The other instrument we use is family trust, which helps to protect the property and pass on the benefits of the property to the family members, and power of attorney that will help you to reach where you cannot. So just we'll delve in brief about all these three topics. Before we go to the will, I have one more poll to ask you. Have you executed your will? Manita, can you run the poll?
I have launched it, sir.
Your answer, have you executed the will?
Let's keep around 30 seconds as time, sir.
Let us see, 30 to 31%, at least let us see 70 to 80% of people vote. Democracy. We have reached 65% of people, participants have voted. 69, 70. No, you went to the first one only, second one. Yeah, poll is closed. 13% of people have executed the will. Congratulations. I appreciate for your consent to safeguard the interests of your family members. Superb. Hats off to you. Right. 53% of people have not executed the will, and 34% they would like to do it. Superb. So another 34% of the people have understood the importance of safeguarding and securing the future of family members. Right. So now those who have not done, those who have not yet decided to do, please reflect upon the points what I have discussed in the last 15-20 minutes or so. What are the complexities of intestate? So these, what is the complexities you'll be giving to your family members, not the estate. Right. So we'll close this. So what is will? So will is a written document by which a person directs how his assets to be distributed upon his death. So it is a document and you make a provisions how your assets needs to be distributed upon the death. That means a will be effective, or a will come into force after the death of the person, or it whom we call testator. So there is another myth that when a will is made, many people think that they lose control over the assets. They think that already property is distributed. It is wrong. Okay. It's only a provision that is made, and this will is effective only after the death of the person. The will to be effective, the life from the person should get transferred to the document. As long as I have a life here in my body, the will is lifeless document. When the life goes out of my body, then will gets its life. I think I made it clear. So what kind of property that can be bequeathed? Any kind of property. Movable, immovable, financial assets, tangible, intangible assets, especially in the business. Yeah, important. People who are doing business as a proprietorship or a partnership, in their absence, who have a right to run the business. Many ignore even succession planning of their business or profession, which we have another session. Okay. So any kind of assets which is capable of transferring to another person can be bequeathed under the will. A will can be changed or can be modified any time during the life of the testator, or a testator has every right to revoke or cancel the will. If a testator needs to make changes to the will and changes are not too significant, or one or two changes which does not alter the major portion of the will, then a separate document can be executed, which we call codicil. So codicil is nothing but an amendment made to the existing will. If the changes that is to be made alters the major portion of the will, then it is always recommended to revoke or cancel the existing will and make a new will. So another question comes, is it necessary to register the will? So as per the law, under the Indian Registration Act, registration of will is optional. It's optional. Option is given to you to register or not. Law does not say that will should not be registered. I have left it to you, to your discretion. So when the option is given, it is prudent to take or to choose the option which is beneficial to us, which is good to us. So in that perspective, though registration of will is optional, I always recommend to my clients to register the will. So what we are going to lose by registering the will? Perhaps maybe a few thousands of rupees towards registration cost, maybe around 60 to 90 minutes of time at the registrar's office. Okay. It is worth to spend this time and money and register the will. Otherwise, for not registering the will, the cost and the time what you spend to execute the provisions of the will be 10 times more at least. Okay. So these are the few essentials of the will. Those who want to make a will, just to bring to their notice, are those who have already executed the will. Perhaps you can review whether your will has all these essentials. So one is testator, is a person who bequeaths his assets by a will. There must be beneficiaries who are clearly identified without any ambiguity. So beneficiaries are the persons who have a right to inherit the assets bequeathed by the testator. So when you make a will, we must have an executor. We also must appoint an executor. So executor is a person who executes the requirements made in the will, who executes your orders made in the will. So in the absence of executor, you have made all the provisions. Bequeath this property, do this, do that, pay my liabilities and on. So to whom you are giving this authority to do? You must give this authority to do someone. So such person is known as executor. So every will should make a declaration that such will is a last and final will. And intentions for making a will. Why you want to make a will? What are your intentions? Identification of the assets owned by the person and how these assets are acquired. For example, assets we discussed in the initial slides, the assets what we have is SB account. Everyone will have fixed deposits with the banks, investments in mutual funds, bonds, debentures, demat account details. It could be unlisted shares in case of unlisted shares, share certificate number, issue year, CIN number of the company, a folio number. In case of automobile, like car or two-wheeler, registration details and the description of the vehicle. It could be a locker with the banks. It could be employment benefits like gratuity, provident fund, immovable property, the way you acquired the immovable property by way of sale deed or a gift deed or a partition deed, details of the deed like date of executing the deed, registration number, registration date, in which register office the deed is registered. The declaration that you have a competence to make a will. That means you are major, age above 18, and you are of sound mind, not under the influence of any intoxication, alcohol, and so on. So when a person has any liabilities, also make a provisions to pay off the liabilities out of your estate. So will also can contain the provisions for medical and final expenses. So today we will be able to relate and understand it. A person, there are many are dying today due to COVID, really unfortunate. But day in and day out throughout the day when we watch the news, the major concern now is that the hospital bills, 7 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, exorbitant. Person is not alive but bill is 10, 15 lakhs. How the family members will be able to pay these bills? Is there any provision we have made for these bills? And final expenses. Then in case if the testator has minor children, appointment of guardian for minor children. Parents, as per the law, have a right to appoint their guardian in the will. We call it testamentary guardian. If the parents have not appointed guardian for their minor children, and in the absence of the parents, then the relative should go to the court and get appointed a legal guardian. Again, which involves expenses and running around. And your will should clearly make the provisions for the bequeathment of the assets. You identify the assets, you identify the beneficiaries, and in very clear terms, you explain that these assets are bequeathed to so and so legal heir or a family member. And every will must be signed by 2 witnesses. And witnesses should sign the will in the presence of the testator. And testator also will sign the will in the presence of the witnesses. So these are the requirements to make a will. So these are a few topics I thought I'd take about the will. So next we have is trust. Is another tool in the estate planning. So many think that when we make a will, that's what is estate planning. So estate planning is much more than the will. It doesn't end with will. Okay. Even trust or having a trust is a part of estate plan. In every case, will is not a suitable plan. So what is trust? A trust is defined under the Indian Trust Act. Instead of going to the technical definition, just to make you to understand, I have given a simple definition. Bottom 2 lines. A trust is a relationship where property is held by one party for the benefit of another party. Property is held by one party for the benefit of another party. I have assets. My family members are not capable of managing these assets. If I leave behind all these assets to their family members, they will mismanage and they will not have anything for the future. So I want to give the responsibility of managing my assets to another person. I'm not transferring the ownership. I'm only giving or transferring the responsibility to manage my assets to another person and request such person manage these assets and provide benefits to my family members, income out of these assets to my family members. This is what is trust. Okay. Why we call it trust? Because I am transferring my property to the third party out of trust. So when we create a trust, the person who executes the trust is known as settlor or author of the trust. The person on whom the author has a trust and transfers the property for the management, such person is known as trustee. So trustees can be one person or it could be multiple persons. So when we create a trust, we also should name the beneficiaries. So beneficiaries are those who are entitled to receive the income of the trust. So beneficiaries are family members. Okay. So when beneficiaries are family members, such trust we call it as a private trust or a family trust. If the beneficiaries are members of the public and trust is established for the purpose of charity, such trust is known as charitable trust. I'm not going into a charitable trust, I'm focusing more on private trust or a family trust. The property that is transferred to be held by the trust is known as trust property. And this trust will come into effect by executing a deed known as trust deed. So trust is also one of the significant tool or a plan in estate planning. I have a client, husband and wife, who are staying in a retirement home near Bangalore. Retirement home, not old age home, retirement home, quite well off. His total assets are around 5 crore plus. Husband and wife, no children, they are aged 75 plus. The worry for the husband is that in his absence, on his demise, 5 crores plus wife should manage. She doesn't have any knowledge about the management, and moreover, due to health reasons, unfortunately, wife has lost vision in both of her eyes. Now, if you make a will, in fact, you executed a will on the advice of some person, that is different. So make a will and give all the assets to the spouse in this scenario does not help, does not serve the purpose. So then I advised him to create a trust. His property is transferred to the trust because he himself is not in a position to go out and manage. So we appointed trustees. And trustees manage the assets, his investments, and income is utilized for their expenses. We also advise private trust for the parents who have a special child, intellectually challenged children. Tejas has mentioned that I made a presentation at DIMHANS. Yeah, I talked to the doctors and other resource persons who are engaged in well-being of the special children. The biggest concern for the parents of the special children is, in their absence, who will manage the investments or property left behind for the benefit of these special children. So trust is one of the options for them, not a will. So like this, I can go on giving the example. Right. So trust is important tool which will protect assets against the claim of creditors. Yeah, another segment where the trust can be useful is businessmen, especially proprietors and partners. So you're aware that proprietorship business and partnership business gives unlimited liability against the business losses. Even the personal assets of these businessmen can be attached by the business creditors. So how do we ring fence or protect some of the assets for the welfare of the family members? So create a trust and transfer property to the trust. And family members are the beneficiaries. Right. Since it is not my personal property, now it is property held by the trust, so creditors don't have a claim on these assets. So it helps in preservation of wealth. In case of will, the property is transferred to the legal heirs, whereas in case of trust, only the income is transferred. Assets are not transferred. So assets are preserved. And trust also gives flexibility for the distribution of income. To whomsoever it needed, family members, depending upon the requirements, the income of the trust can be applied or utilized. And it minimizes dispute among the family members. There is no need to take a probate, unlike will. So depending upon the type of trust, it also offers some income tax benefits. Though income tax benefits should not be the criteria to settle the trust, in certain cases, yes, it offers income tax benefits. So what I would like to communicate here is that always don't look that estate planning ends with will. No, it is much more than the will, depending upon the circumstances. And finally, we'll come to the power of attorney, which is a document that will help you to appoint a person or an organization to manage property or the medical affairs when a person becomes incapacitated. So power of attorney is a tool as part of estate planning we recommend to manage the assets when a person becomes incapacitated. Right. So you're aware most of you about the power of attorney. Maybe you also would have advised your clients how to execute this power of attorney. So this power of attorney can be a general power of attorney, which gives authority to the attorney to do any act which the donor of the authority would have done lawfully. Then a special power of attorney which is given only for a specific purpose or to do a specific act by the attorney. So you can give a medical power of attorney to take certain health care or medical decisions relating to the donor of the authority. So donor of the authority is giving the authority to the attorney holder. Then we have power of attorney to manage the financial affairs. It could be buying and selling of equities, managing the demat accounts, trading accounts, managing the bank accounts. So for all these reasons, a power of attorney can be given. So this power of attorney could be one of the important tools or a part of estate planning for the senior citizens, because they are alive. Though they have made a will, the property will pass on to the legal heirs only after their demise. But they need someone's support during their lifetime to manage their estate. Then power of attorney is one of the tools that helps them in management of their estate. So the purpose of power of attorney is to manage one's financial affairs in the event of incapacity, give directions to another person about managing your health and well-being, and to buy and sell the properties or execute legal documents, file income tax returns or investments. This is what is the purpose of power of attorney. Yes, sir, this is what I would like to communicate. Now, having understood about estate planning, I would like to have your opinion. How relevant is estate planning to you and your clients? Manita, can you go ahead with the poll?
Sure, sir. I launched the poll.
How relevant is estate planning to you and your clients?
Sir, in the 10th minute itself, it became 100%.
Sorry?
In the 10th second itself, it became 100%. Let me end it.
No, 100% said yes. Means 68 participants have voted and everyone said it is relevant.
I close at 30th second, I guess.
Done. 68 participants have voted and every one of them said that it is relevant for themselves and their clients. Right, can you close this?
Done, sir.
Can you close the screen? I have one more question, last question. Do you wish to offer estate planning services to your clients? Can you share this poll?
Sure, sir, doing. Poll is launched, sir.
Yeah, we close. Good. So 64 participants said yes, they would like to offer estate planning, and 3 participants said no. Could be they have their own reasons. Absolutely fine. So I'm happy that you find that estate planning is relevant for you and to your clients, and you would like to offer estate planning services to your clients. I believe financial advisors play a very important role in offering advice or recommendations to the client. You may just initiate this discussion with the client, they'll be more happy that you are giving them some advice which is valuable to them. Please don't mistake me. Of course, I survive doing only estate planning. So my observation is that at least 6 or 7 out of 10 clients, they say that their financial planners have not told them or advisors have not told them about estate planning. So there is a huge opportunity for you all to open your doors, to open your opportunities, and also gives you one more leverage to strengthen relationship with your clients. And we're discussing in some other aspect, one of the biggest challenge today the financial advisors community have is retaining the investments of the client and then even getting the next generation to do business with them. So when you do the estate planning, you know the complete details of the family, their assets and all. That will help you to proceed further and see that you retain entire family as your clients than just having a transactional relationship like investments. So this could be again like an asset allocation for your own services. Right. Fine, sir. This is what I thought I'll communicate to you all. I can take some question and answers.
Yeah, sir. Just give me a minute. Sir, can you just stop sharing so that I'll just take over?
Done.
Yeah, sir. Sir, before we moving to the these questions, probably just give me one moment. Yeah,
Yes.
let me just go ahead with the questions that are there in the question pane. Yeah. Yeah, sir. Mr. Ramesh Menon wants to know, does the property transmitted to the survivor when one of the owner of the joint property dies? When should we just transfer? He is asking us whether the property will get automatically just transferred to the survivor when one of the owners of a joint property dies.
Achha, property is owned jointly by two persons. Okay, let us take for example husband and wife. If any one person dies, either husband or a wife, does the surviving spouse will have a rights of inheritance? Isn't
Exactly.
it? That's the question, isn't it?
Exactly, that's right.
Fine. So no, right? The share of the husband or share of the wife or for that matter the share of the deceased person will go to his legal heirs as per the succession laws in the absence of will or any other estate plan. It does not automatically go to the surviving spouse.
That's great, sir. The next question is, if all the financial assets are in joint names, then what happens? Then 1 lakh crore that is unclaimed means that there is no nominee or joint holder or no will is return is what he is asking. It's being raised by Mr. Deepak.
Reasons I don't think anybody knows about it, why this is not claimed. Yeah, one thing is that which again I come across in most of the cases, family members are not aware about the assets or investments made by the deceased person.
So tracking of the investments matters a lot.
Yes.
And organizing the investments, especially during the COVID period.
Data is not organized. Investment details are not organized. I have a clients who have taken even more than a year to fill up the information what I need.
Oh, that's alarming, sir. So, Mr. Job raises this question. Is it easy to register will? What happens to portions of property that is not mentioned in the will?
This way, when we make a will, we have to carefully consider all the aspects, anticipate the future changes. But still, we are human beings. There could be some omissions. Okay. So one more clause we can have in the will about the residual assets. Means assets which are not bequeathed under the will, which you own and possess as of today. Okay, by omission, you could not include in this will, or you executed the will, subsequently you acquired the asset, but before you made any changes or modifications or execution of codicil, if something happens, we need to have a protection, or you would have inherited the assets. Okay, so any asset that is acquired after executing the will, or any asset by omission which is not included in the will, we classify it as residual assets, and there also we make a provision that all the residual assets will go to so-and-so family member. Okay, I'll say that all my residual assets I am bequeathing to my wife. So it's a blanket. So wordings are important there.
That's right. If I remember, in one of the clients' will, you also just wrote about the forecasted properties that the spouse would be getting. Right? So just that's great. So Mr. Deepak N wants to know as to what are the differences, what exactly is the difference between will and the gift deed in case of a physical asset, that is a property.
Property.
Yeah, sir.
Will and gift deed. Both the instruments enables the transfer of property from one person to another person without any consideration. So when the property, when you say gift deed, a property is gifted, let us say from father to son. When we say gift, it is without consideration. When there is a consideration, we call it as a sale deed. Even in case of will, my father makes a will bequeathing his property to me after his life. Here also there is a transfer of property and no consideration. But the difference is that when you execute the will, the transfer of property takes effect immediately upon the execution of gift deed. Whereas the transfer of property will be effective in case of will only after the death of the testator.
Got it.
Right?
Right, sir. So Mr. Job Nirath has got this question. Can vehicles also be this that is transferred through a will?
Absolutely. In fact, I strongly recommend many ignore this. Please include your vehicle details also in the will.
Yeah, he further raises the question as to this: while writing the will, should we need to take the permission of the executor, and is his signature really required to register the will? That is about
executor's signature is not required in the execution of will. But it is always recommended to have a word with executor because he should agree to take the responsibility. Right?
Right.
So in that aspect, I suggest to have a word with the executor that you're executing a will. I would like to appoint you as an executor, and this is what is your role and responsibilities.
That's right.
So there is aware. Okay.
Mr. Arena Gowda wants to know as to whether a HUF Karta of the HUF, can he write a will?
Any person can write a will, even Karta of HUF, but he cannot make a will for the property held by HUF. The Karta of HUF, in his individual capacity, he can bequeath his individual or personal or separate property. Okay, not HUF property. HUF property is not the property of Karta alone. It is a family property, Hindu undivided family. Okay.
Right, sir. So Mr. Venkatesh Shetty wants to know, he is raising this question and stating that we have multiple properties where myself, spouse, son, daughter-in-law are the owners. Then how many wills ought to be written?
Every person who owns the will should, who owns the property should make a will. Every person. Okay, every person. Husband and wife together only own one property. Both of them have to make a will, though they have only one property. I recommend to make a will. So ultimately, understand by making a will, you are making provisions to transfer the title and ownership. So any person who has a title or the property should make a provision to transfer his or her title to the family members or other legal heirs.
So Mr. Rangnath, he hits the nail on the head. He is asking, can we approach you for helping us to offer the service to our clients?
I don't know, this is a platform where I can talk about myself. Simple answer is yes, that's all.
Yeah, certainly, sir, you could do so. And what qualifications we should possess to offer the service to our clients? Again, this is being raised by Mr. Rangnath.
What?
What are all the qualifications one should possess to offer the service to the clients?
The first qualification is knowledge about inheritance laws. Okay, knowledge about process of transmission of immovable properties, rules and regulations. This is first necessary than any certifications. Okay, yeah, there are many certification programs offered by the professional entities today. Like I myself, I'm a chartered trust and estate planner offered by American Academy of Financial Management. I have also studied about estate planning when I did my certification CFP, Certified Financial Planner. I also have certificate in trust and estate advisory offered by Association of what do you call AIWMI.
That's great, sir.
All this has helped me to know more about the inheritance and succession laws. And most importantly, I'm not just a planner to plan. Estate planning or the outcome of estate planning will be known only when the need for execution arises. Okay.
That's great, sir. I need to just accept at this juncture, so we all learned from you and we are still learning from you. Sir, in your presentation, you said that actually you were talking about the registration of the will. What will happen in case it is not registered, especially where the properties are there? And
even though will is not registered, still as per the law, this is the valid will. Okay. Now let us take a scenario. A person has property, immovable property. He made a will, bequeathed to family member, but not registered. My father has made a will, bequeathed the property to me, but the will is not registered. Now, can we consider my title on this property now is good and marketable? Is this title is marketable now? Can I do any transaction on this property on the basis of the unregistered will? I intend to sell. Will you buy this property on the basis of the unregistered will?
Unless and until it gets transferred to the other person. So
that's what I said.
Buy it, obviously.
Title to the immovable property is considered to be good and marketable only when it is conveyed through the registered deed.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
That is, Mr. Ramesh M is asking this question. When a father gives the property to the son, does the other son have to have any right to fight for it in the court? When a father gives a property to one son, does the other son have any right to fight for it in the court?
So now you need to be very clear about your statement, whether it's a gift or a will. Suppose when you say gift, okay, gift is made during the lifetime of the owner of the asset. And such asset that is transferred is itself acquired asset. So the owner has an absolute right to gift it to anyone. No other person can dispute it. It will not stand in the court of law. My father, during his lifetime, gifted his property to me, leaving my brothers and other sisters. He has not given anything to them. But when he is alive, he gifted the property to me. Deed is drafted and it is registered with the office of the registrar. Other people cannot make any claim here. Suppose my father has made a will, bequeathing the property to me without giving anything to my brothers and sisters. Right? Even then, my brothers and sisters can make a dispute, can make a claim. Then it becomes a dispute. Then let us say ultimately it reaches to the court. Now court has to verify whether the will that is executed is valid, is bona fide. Court has its own process to determine. If the court is convinced that the will that is executed is valid, even though the will is not registered, then it will be final.
Right. Mr. Tejas asked this question: can a registered will be contested in the court of law?
Absolutely, it can be contested, but it becomes difficult for the contestant to prove that there is some suspicious aspects in making the will. So here we need to understand that when other claimants contest the will, they should give the reason for their complaint. So simply someone says that no, my father has not given anything to me, then this will is not valid. This cannot be the reason for the dispute. Even courts also does not interfere why the property is bequeathed to one legal heir and why it is not bequeathed to another legal heir. Court is not concerned about the distribution because every person, every owner of the asset has a right to gift or to bequeath his assets to anyone to whom he chooses. The court only looks into it that the property that is bequeathed, is it a self-acquired property? Number one. Number two, whether the will is signed by the testator. Then, whether the testator is in sound mind, is in a right frame of mind, not under intoxication. The will is executed in a free environment without any force or coercion. If all these are proven, okay, just because some property is not gifted to other legal heirs, it cannot be contested. This is where registration of will plays a very important role. So if the will is registered, okay, the testator has gone to the office of the sub-registrar. Two witnesses have gone to the office of the sub-registrar. Okay, fingerprints are taken. So how can you say that signature is forged or other things? Photo is taken at the time of registration. Okay, the person knows that he has to go to the office of the registrar to register the will. He has not gone to any other place. So he's in his senses. This is where the registration proves to be useful.
Got it, sir. There is one question from Mr. Deepak. If all the financial assets are in joint names, is a will still required?
So you need to understand the provisions of the joint account. It could be bank accounts or it could be mutual funds. Joint account only facilitates the surviving account holder to operate and administer the account. It does not give the beneficial ownership to the assets.
And Mr. Balu Subramaniam Andavan asked this question: can father make gift deed for his cash in hand to his son?
Father can make a gift deed for his
gift deed for his cash, whatever he is holding in his hand. Can he write a gift deed?
Yeah, he can do that. Absolutely, he can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Rajesh asked this question: if will is registered and I want to make a change later, does the change will need to be registered again?
It is always recommended. First of all, registration of will is optional. So when you cancel or revoke the existing and make a new will, again the same principle applies there. It is prudent to register the will. But just because the first will is registered and second will is not registered, it doesn't mean that second one is invalid. No. Even then second will is valid. The latest one will be valid.
Okay.
Okay. Whether it is registered or not, the latest will is valid.
Mr. Anthony asked this question: my wife and I are joint holders of the property. We have one child. Do we need to do a will or it goes automatically to him? I know what
Only one child. Whether one child or whatever it is, it goes to legal heirs, class 1 legal heirs. If you are to be Hindu, if you are to be Christian, the first child goes to father, then mother, brothers and sisters, and so on. Okay. How these rights will pass on? Yeah, only son, he has a right as per the law. So how he can make a claim on this property? He must have some document to claim the title and ownership. Right.
So,
That's a challenge. That's a challenge.
Mr. T.M. Subramania Swami wants to know that can anyone do will in online?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do online, you can do on your own, you can take the help of professionals. Okay.
So, Mr. Kumaraswamy wants to know, can one of the beneficiary be an executor in the will?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Beneficiary should not be a witness. Okay.
That's great, sir. I think that I have raised almost all the questions, whatever that is there in the question pane. So, good. It was just great listening to you as usual.
You made a rapid fire questions. Okay.
So, in case I have missed out any questions, certainly just we'll take it up. We'll revert to those. We'll revert with the responses.
Done.
Thank you, sir.
I hope some value is added to everyone.
Certainly, sir. No doubt about it. Okay. Because already just I have started getting a lot of good feedback for the initiative taken by Camphor, as well as
Superb.
a lot of people have just come out with a great appreciation to you as a presenter.
Thank you. Thank you to you and the team for inviting me, Tejas and Srikanta Bhashi.
It's a pleasure, sir. Now, over to you, Sri.
Thank you, Vanita. Thank you, Vanita and Suresh, for an excellent session. Suresh, I think you are one of the few people who can make law as very interesting and lucid, because whenever we sit in front of a lawyer, I'm sure all my fraternity friends would agree that we really feel foolish because half the time we don't understand. I think the reason why at Camphor, both Vanita and me, when we were talking about topics for the session, we chose this topic. As wealth creators, I think it's very important for all of us to make sure that our clients we make the natural progression and make sure that our clients and family also take care of the wealth and enjoy the wealth what we create for them. And one statistic what you told, Mr. Suresh, was startling, that 1 lakh crore of money is lying, in unclaimed accounts. I was just Googling and I saw that India's GDP is something around 130 to 140 crore. And we are staring at a 1 lakh crore figure. I think it's an eye opener. All of us should be part of making sure that, this figure comes down, and let us do it in our own way. And during the poll, we saw that 54% of people have not done well. I'm not surprised. I am also party to in a halfway, even though I know Mr. Suresh and my clients have been using his services. I haven't had the time. I think, all of us always are running after something or the other. We don't give focus to the thing. And also at this juncture, we would like to inform our members. One thing is very satisfying for us when we put together a program is the large participation when people participate. Today we hit a century, and me and Vanita were texting
Very
each
good.
other.
Okay.
So we felt very good. I think nothing is more gratifying when people attend in large numbers. It's vindication that you guys have liked, and also the topic is relevant. So we'll try and do more and more relevant topics and bring it to you. And as Vanita has already indicated, this is a 2-part series. Today is the first part. And second part, at Camphor, what we also want to do, especially the new theme we are focused on, is apart from increasing the knowledge for our fraternity, we should also expose you to income earning opportunities around us. And this exercise or this seminar is one such endeavor. In the next week session, we will talk about how we can use this estate planning as a revenue earner in association with Mr. Suresh. Somebody was asking what are the kind of courses we need to do for this. I would say you have all the courses and a CFP rolled into one sitting in front of you. Why do you want to do reinvent the wheel? So we will give you an easier option way to look at this as a service so that you expand your bouquet of services, and it's also a win-win for all of us. And finally, I think it's very important that at this time, we all have to be very safe. When the session was on, I got a WhatsApp forward joke, which is very apt. Relax and enjoy in your home, otherwise nominee will enjoy. Let us not give room for that, and stay safe, and we all will see you next week. And we at Camphor, the new team, will try and our best to bring you more and more relevant sessions and which is useful to you. And do participate in large numbers. I think only then we will be motivated to do more and more important and interesting sessions. So your support is very, very useful to us. And Karnataka, Bere chapter, Eldrigu ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, and take care. And I think I've covered all the subjects. Yeah.
Thank you, Suresh. It was a very
Namaskara.
session.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
Tejas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
all.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Yes, sir. Bye all.